All right, guys, happy Monday. I'm here today with the amazing Lissette Hurtado. Lissette, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Joe?
I'm amazing, man. Did you have a good weekend?
Great. Nice family time. Saw my daughter up in UCF and had a great time.
Oh, man, that's kind of
Yeah.
fun. I got to spend a little
Yeah.
bit of time in the pool, which is always good. So I think we both had a pretty good weekend. We were talking last week about some different scenarios that we've had, some experiences with inspectors, and really not just us as real estate professionals, because we know them all, right? We know which ones to use, which ones maybe we don't want to use, and the why behind it all. But if you're a buyer, especially if you're coming from out of the area, if you don't have connections to a lot of the people in the different Facebook groups, how do you know which inspector to go with? And what is it that you're really using as criteria to determine which one's the good one and which one you don't want to go with? So, Lissette, I'm going to let you start it off. As a buyer, how do I determine which inspector I should be looking for and which I should stay away from?
It's funny. I've been seeing online a lot of comments of people saying, don't go with the inspector your realtor recommends. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, at least I know for me and for you and a lot of people that I work with, we're all looking for the biggest and the best benefit for our buyers. So we're
Yeah.
going to recommend the best in the community that we know that's going to provide the most service and value to you. So ask your realtor, but ask maybe for them to give you 3 inspectors that they recommend. So then you have options and not just one.
Yep. And, kind of the thought process behind what you're saying, I think, is if I am but I want to do the opposite. But if I am an agent and all I care about is the closing, right? I'm going to want to find an inspector that's not going to talk about anything, right? But really, is that in the best interest of the buyer? No, that is absolutely not in the best interest of the buyer. I'll tell you, most, but not all, and it's not a real estate thing, it's a human thing. Most agents, especially if you're on the buy side, you've got this innate desire to beat the other side. You want to win, you want to help your client, you want to put them in a better position. So for the most part, you're not going to want the inspector who's missing stuff. You're going to want the one who's going out and getting stuff. So I don't know how often that truly happens. One way to kind of guard away from that, though, or guard from that, is a couple things. Number one, check out their Google reviews. Right? Any good inspector who's got good systems, good processes, they're going to have 20, 30 plus, sometimes hundreds of Google reviews, and you can see how good they actually are, right? And look into the negatives, okay? Because everyone's going to have them, and you can see how legit they are. You can see what the negatives are. Are they little things that are blown out of proportion, or are they big things? Did the company actually respond to some of those Google reviews or not? That's really important. Also, check out their website. Like if you're a big professional, we've got processes and organization and checklists and everything's by the book kind of company, you're going to have a great website in most scenarios. And if you're just Bob who woke up one Tuesday and decided, I don't like IT, I'm going to go be a home inspector, you might not have that set up, right? You might not have the Google reviews. You might not have the reputation. And of course, if you're local, I think it's great to get in some of these Facebook groups, right? The garage sale groups, the mom groups. And if you ask them a question, you're going to get 1,200 responses. Yeah, exactly. You're going to get a lot of responses, and you're going to get a lot of thought behind it. You'll get a lot of, wasted effort too, but you'll get some really good responses in there that'll kind of help guide you through that. So, Lissette, what else are you looking at if you're a buyer?
So you know what? Why don't you ask your realtor a few questions? We've all had issues in our inspections come up. Yep. Some, that inspectors just can't see because they don't go behind the walls. So some of the stuff is going to come up. And sometimes maybe an inspector did miss something. Ask, how did the inspection company deal with this? What services did they offer you? Do they have warranty? Did they ask you hey, give us the opportunity to go back and re-inspect the situation? Were they there for you when you called? And did they try to follow through and walk you through any steps to resolve the issue? That's, really insightful. I'm sure we've all had experiences if we've been in the business long enough. And we're going to tell you this company is great and they answer the phone and this company doesn't. So that's another good question to ask.
I agree with you guys. If you got questions or comments, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to put them in the comments section. We'll get back to you before the end of the video. But going back to the warranties, the company that we use has a lot of different warranties, and they've got automated warranties. For example, you get your house inspected with them from closing until 5 years out, to include the time that you get the inspection done until closing. That's just free time. You've got a 5-year roof warranty, Right now, roofs are the biggest thing that you have to contend with as a homeowner, right? So to know that, hey, for the next 5 years, if this inspection company said my roof is good, my roof is good. That's a really comforting feeling, right? And there are other warranties involved with the company that we use for free. There are also paid warranties, right? But one of the things that I love about the company that we work with is with those paid warranties, you get 18 months worth for 12 months of price. So a lot of these companies, especially Bob, the guy who got his license on a Tuesday, he's probably not going to have the connections with these warranty companies that a bigger, more successful, more established company is going to. He's not going to have a lot of remedies. I know with the inspection company we've worked with, when a problem arises after closing, there are a lot of solutions because, hey, this is warranted, or hey, you can call this company and they'll do this for this amount, or hey, we got the connection to this person, or hey, we're supposed to get that and we didn't, so we'll cover this, or whatever it is. But the bigger the company and the more reputable they are, the more solutions they're going to have with problems. Is there anything else you'd add, Lissette?
Ask for a sample report. A lot of these reports are sometimes confusing and difficult to read. I've been seeing across the board, the top companies all have kind of more or less the same reports, pictures, very detailed, everything very, very specific. And apart from that, once the inspection is over, if you're at the inspection or your agent as your representative, they make sure to go through all the major points, any questions you have, so you see firsthand any of the issues that are going to come up, and you're going to see once the report is ready. So understanding how that report is and understanding what to expect is a good question to ask.
Yeah, and honestly, if you look at 2-3 reports, you don't have to be a realtor, doing this every single day to see the difference in value. How clearly are the issues laid out? How good are the photos, describing what it is that the issue is? Some inspectors even do videos, right? So you'll get the report digitally, and if a picture just doesn't do it justice, for example, you've got poor drainage in the tub. How the heck do you show that in a picture? How do I know what slow means? Slow could mean it doesn't work at all. Slow could mean it's going to take 3 hours. Slow could mean it's just a little slow, but it's not really a big deal. There's a big difference in those three things, right? So being able to see a video is a huge step up, and just asking for those reports, I think that's a phenomenal idea. Another thing I would ask about up front, and the Google reviews will support how accurate this is likely to be, but what's your accessibility to that inspector? You're going to be hopefully at the inspection. If you're not, it's not, a deal breaker. You can still get the report after and ask all the questions. But I'll tell you, one of the reasons we work with the company we work with is because I know that inspector that day will sit down with my buyer, and they will have whatever conversation that buyer needs to have. Sometimes it's 5-10 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour, and it's at 8:00 at night on a Wednesday. I know that they're going to get that type of customer service. That's one of the biggest reasons I work with them, right? I also know that as a buyer, you're not going to ask all the questions you'd wished you'd asked on day one. So if you've got, say, a 10-day inspection period and you get that inspection done on day 3, it might be day 5, 6, 7 where you're like, oh my gosh, and it's in the middle of the night, and you wake up your wife and you're like, honey, what about this? I just thought about that, and now you're kind of freaking out. If you've got accessibility to that inspector, it's going to help you so much. So really, that's a big deal to me too. How do you tell the difference? Honestly, they're all going to tell you they're accessible. Go to the Google reviews and see what they say. Lissette, is there anything that you want to close us out with in finding that perfect home inspector for a buyer?
The inspection period could be a little scary for buyers, especially if it's your first time going through it. Having someone behind you to support you, having a good realtor, and having a good inspection company it's so priceless. Yep. Just, get to know your community also, and see if the inspection company is associated with any associations. That's going to tell you a lot about their experience, how involved they are in the community, and how many people refer them out also to be used. So just do your homework. Don't feel pressured, and interview at least 3 inspection companies.
So, and just to kind of let everybody know, I should have done this at the beginning of the video. Typical inspections tend to be maybe 5 to, I'll say 15 days, but the overwhelming majority are either 5, 7, or 10. Those are the 3 numbers I typically see the most. Would you agree, Lissette?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5, 7, or 10. You should be thinking as a buyer, how attractive is my offer if I'm asking 10, 12, 15, 20 days for an inspection? As a listing agent, that is not very attractive to me. In fact, I've had buyers agents call me up before as a listing agent and say, hey, listen, we're doing a 4-day inspection because I know I can get my inspector in 3 days and we'll need 24 hours to look at whatever that report is. So I want you to see that we're on the ball. As a listing agent, I'm thinking, I like this guy already because he's on top of it, proactive, prepared, connected. I love it, right? If I get somebody who brings me an offer and we've got other issues and then they got a 15-day inspection, I'm thinking, man, this is a train wreck. Why do you need 15 days? And typically, guys, just so you're aware, I mean, every inspection company is different. Every market is different. But in this market, I can usually get an inspection from my number one inspection company within 1 to 3 days. It's not a problem at all. I don't know that I've ever had to wait 4 days. Even when COVID hit and everybody was just kind of losing their doggone minds, maybe it was 4 days, but I don't think it was ever, anything like that. I have no problem calling a second inspection company. I think I've done that twice since I've lived in Florida. So that, and maybe that's a little bit of a compliment to the company that we're working with, but I think it's pretty normal to expect 1 to 3 days. So just kind of give you guys a little bit of feedback. And when you get that inspection, unless you write something in that says that your escrow deposit, which is usually, it could be $5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, it's whatever you negotiate, but it's usually 5 to 20 grand. That is usually 100% refundable if you decide to back out for any reason during that inspection period. So if it's 5, 7 days, whatever it is, and you just decide, I don't want to buy a house, I want to be a renter forever, you can do it, right? Don't laugh at that, Lissette. You can do it forever, right? I'm laughing at it too. But you can say, I don't like the color of the carpet. You can negotiate. You can get turned down on negotiation. You guys could come together. A million things could happen, but at the end of the day, for that inspection period, you can back out for any reasons. There are states like North Carolina. Did you know this, Lissette? I didn't know this till about 2 months ago.
I know where you're going with that.
It was the guy I had on here, Matt Yurditsky, and I was watching one of his TikToks. He didn't know it. But in North Carolina, you give 2 deposits. One, just like we do, which if you don't have a contingency, good luck getting it back. But there's so many contingencies. I mean, you can get out for a million reasons, right? In North Carolina, on day 1, you're giving non-refundable escrow deposits. Now, I don't know if they're doing $1 grand or 2, or if they're doing 5 or 10 like we usually do. But holy smokes, I got to imagine the fall-through rate is much smaller there. So...
Well, yeah, I saw an agent that actually was under contract herself. She had to give due diligence, $2,000 plus whatever she was putting in escrow. She had to pull out because of the condition of the property. She got her escrow back, but she didn't get her due diligence.
Yeah,
she lost that $2 grand. So
that's wild. And I assume, was that a Florida agent?
No, she knew. She was in North Carolina. She knew how the system worked. It's just one of those things. She had to take the risk, and that's what they do up there.
Yeah. But imagine, like, so many people go for sale by owner. So many people don't know that an as-is contract is not what you think it is. They think as-is means you're buying my house the way it is, because that's what we use as-is and every other thing in the world. But as-is in real estate in Florida, that is not what it means. It means something completely different. And then I look at this thing in North Carolina and all these different circumstances, I think, my gosh, even someone like you or me, we're selling a lot of homes. We're down here in Florida. We know Florida. I could have gone to North Carolina and I could have lost that due diligence if I didn't know that contract, right? So really important to know. But anyway, guys, there's a little bit of knowledge on how that inspection process works. Again, any questions, comments, anything like that, go throw them down there. Otherwise, I appreciate you all joining me. Lissette, thanks, bud. I appreciate it.